Yeah, it's time for the crowning of another champion in European football. The Europa Conference League final set for Wednesday in Prague, Czech Republic. The matchup, Fiorentina of Italy against West Ham of England. And you can catch the action on SportsMax 2 Wednesday starting at 2 p.m. 3 ECT. Now, West Ham are chasing their first major trophy in 43 years. Their captain, Declan Rice, who is reportedly set to leave in the summer, is thinking about building a legacy for West Ham.
Close. You're 90 minutes, 120 minutes away from, doing something very special for this club. I've seen videos all day of the fans travelling over. I think it's been talk of the town in East London since we won the semi-final. So that not only for us as players and the manager, all the staff, I think for the fans, we really want to do it for them as well. It's been such a long time, European final. It's time to do it. There's not many words you can say, to be honest with you. I think I read earlier, it was like me, Billy Bonds and someone else that have captained West Ham in European finals, and look, it's a massive honour. I don't like to put too much pressure on myself or think about it too much. But I'm sure tomorrow, when the time comes around, I'll be ready and hopefully can lead West Ham to one of the biggest victories they've had in years.
Yeah, Declan Rice says he doesn't want to put too much pressure on himself, but for sure there is going to be pressure in that massive game for West Ham and for Fiorentina on Wednesday. One of our international football analysts, Brent Sancho, we should have had him not quite here with us yet. Lance, Mariah, this is a big game for West Ham.
Yes, I think it's a big game for both teams. When we think about the context, Ricardo, and you said it in your opening, the fact that both teams have been, without major titles for some time. What I will say is Fiorentina, they have firepower in their squad. And when I speak about firepower, we can draw on the goals. 36 goals, 14 matches, leading them to this particular position right now. So, of course, I feel like they have just as a good chance as West Ham. I like what David Moyes has done with West Ham. We heard from the captain just now, Declan Rice, and it's as if both teams are very, very hungry, and it's anybody's game to take.
Yeah, another aspect of this match that adds importance to the fixture is that both of these teams finished outside of European qualifying places in their domestic league, so their only way back to Europe next season is winning here in this match. So that adds some fire to this clash between West Ham and Fiorentina.
Yeah, it certainly does add some fire. And just to talk about West Ham a little bit more, of course, the Jamaican international Mikel Antonio plays for the West Ham team. He has not been as influential this season as he was in more recent campaigns, but yeah, could be a massive game for him as well. I think we have Brent Sancho now. Brent, how are you doing?
I'm great, thank you very much. Hello to you, Mariah and Lance.
Yeah, and it's great to have you. Talk to us about this West Ham unit and the significance of tomorrow's final and trying to win a trophy, a major European trophy, for the first time since 1980 when they won the FA Cup.
Yeah, it's a big one for West Ham, particularly so with the underwhelming performance they've had in the EPL this season. Of course, this competition have given them some respite and certainly an opportunity to win the major silverware. It's also, of course, Ricardo, have many different subplots in it. Of course, many believe that this could be the last season or last game for Declan Rice, the influential captain of West Ham and a major character in the dressing room and major player for West Ham for many, many seasons. And, of course, the under pressure David Moyes. And whether or not this is his last game. You have the sense that he had a very disappointing season in the EPL, and you wonder if the owners at the club may feel that change is necessary. So I think when you put all those factors in place, it should be an absolute cracker tomorrow.
How does it all affect the psyche of a team, you think, Brent, when your lead man in Declan Rice is reported to be leaving at the end of this campaign? You're not certain that your head coach will live to fight another day at this club. How does that usually all affect the psyche of a team?
I think that the fact that the trumping for it is the fact that they can win a major trophy. And I think that would supersede anything else. The fact that they've had a disappointing season by their standards. Of course, this is a team that was challenging in the top 6 and even top 4 not too long ago. They now have a situation to put a punctuation mark in their season. Most players, when they have that final game to win silverware as the last game of your season, they tend to be up for it. And I think the West Ham players collectively would be up for it. I certainly, Ricardo, believe that Declan Rice would want to put in a certain type of performance because I do feel that this is his last game for West Ham.
Interesting. And talk to me about Fiorentina and their chances in this encounter.
Look, I have them down as favourites to win this one simply because they've been a very solid team throughout the Serie A season. They have some very gifted players, and Gonzalez, who plays out wide, the Argentinian, has been in irresistible form. Of course, World Cup hero in Ambarat in the midfield, and Bonaventure, a player that is very creative and makes them tick. They are one of the better teams in this tournament. They've showed it. They've showed it in Serie A as well. I watched them in the weekend against Sassuolo, and they were excellent. I just feel that everything suggests to me that this very strong Fiorentina team might be just a little bit too much for West Ham.
Yeah, Fiorentina will be looking to keep the Conference League title in Italy after Roma won it last season. Last week, of course, Roma lost in the Europa League final to Sevilla. Italy now has 2 more chances, of course, for European crowns because they have Inter Milan in the Champions League final as well. And we'll just look at the fact that the Italian clubs have done really well. I remember asking you the question, Brent, whether it was more coincidence that we're seeing 3 Italian teams in European finals this season. And I know you felt that it was more coincidence than anything else. But would you be surprised if Fiorentina won this Conference League title on Wednesday?
No, I wouldn't be surprised. And look, you have to give credit to the Italian teams. There have been improvement, I think, in terms of the depth of their squads. Now they can compete more so in Europe. Of course, there's been more money in the Serie A game as it relates to television rights. We've seen more teams having their own stadiums, and now they can generate the revenue. So financially, they are in better positions, or I should say, they're back to where they were when they were in the 80s and 90s. That being said, from Fiorentina perspective, as I said, this is a very complete team, a very talented team, a team that plays very slick football, that is a possession-based team that would dominate possession and are very comfortable in their skin. They've certainly give as much of they've gotten in Serie A. And as I said, I just feel that this is a team that's now in the ascendancy and is keep moving upwards. And I just feel that West Ham approach to this, to what they've done most season and the way they've approached football games more defensively, soak up the pressure and try to play on the counter with Gerard Bowen and of course Antonio. I just don't think that is enough to beat this complete Fiorentina side. So
you're saying Fiorentina to win this one?
Yeah, I'm tipping my hat towards them. I do think it may go to extra time simply because, as I said, West Ham have shown a lot of defensive, well, they've been very reliable defensively throughout this tournament. And I think they might be able to keep the door shut for 90 minutes. But I think once we get past the 90-minute mark, it might be just too much of a loss for West Ham.
Yeah, well, Brent, on another note, Tottenham Hotspur have confirmed Ange Postecoglou as their new coach. The Australian left Celtic after leading them to treble success in Scotland and now turns to Spurs, who have not won a trophy since 2008. Apart from managing in Scotland, he has also managed in Greece and Australia. But let's look at his stats at Celtic. All right. All right, so as we await that stats, a lot of questions as to Ange Postecoglou joining the English Premier League, coming from a different format. Okay, so these are his stats at Celtics, his last club. He's 57 years old. He has coached over 113 matches. They've won 83, 18 losses, and he has a win percentage of 77. Brent, is he the right man for the job at Tottenham?
I think from the body of work that he's done, I would say yes. His stats certainly doesn't underline the attractive football that Celtic have played. He's really rejuvenated that football club, and they've played some really good football. They've dominated the Scottish League, and just like De Zerbi and others like that, and that ilk, coming into the Premiership, they have a certain way that they want to play possession-based football, high pressing, very attractive football. It's going to be interesting to see what he does at Spurs. But I think, Mariah, it's not so much about his talents as a coach. I think it comes down to his talent as a manager. Yeah. Whether or not he's going to be given the authority. Of course, we know how strong David Levy, how strong the chairman Levy is at Tottenham Hotspurs, and whether or not he's going to allow him to, of course, play a major role in recruitment of players, play a major role includes of the culture of the club and what they do, and of course the elephant in the room, whether or not Harry Kane stays. I think that is going to be a major factor for whether or not he would be successful in his tenure.
But based on, what we've seen from Tottenham, and we already know that the other EPL teams are going to strengthen, Brent, do you feel as if he isn't able to get the team into the top four, he will have the fate of the other managers and be sacked? Because I'm looking at these other teams in the EPL, it looks as if they're going to even get better. So when I look at the rankings, it's as if Tottenham might end up on the same ranking that they did this season, which is 8th. Do you think that he can change that?
I think it has to be a building process. I think one of the things that has eroded itself at Spurs is the culture of the club. It's a strong word, and it's something that defines how a club plays and of course how a club does in league fixtures. And it's going to, as I said, it's going to be really interesting to see whether or not he can do that. I think in terms of placing a marker and suggesting, well, if he does this, then it's considered a successful season. I think success will be based on whether or not he can get Spurs playing attractive football, getting positive results, and yes, being able to show that they are in the ascendancy. I think not necessarily judge, of course, if he's relegated, he'd probably be stuck. But I think in the sense of placing and saying, if they place here on the table, it's a deemed success. I'm not sure that's the right sort of litmus test. I do feel that when you look at Tottenham Hotspurs, they are a broken team. We've seen some horrendous performances by them. And when you look at their roster and the type of players they have within their squad, they certainly should be punching a lot higher than they are. So yes, it's about turning things around, getting back the locker room, getting back the culture, and making sure Spurs play in a particular way.
Yeah, 2 quick ones, Brent. We can't forget the line, Spurs are specialists in failure. That came from one of their more recent coaches in Antonio Conte. And many agreed that that is the case with this Spurs setup. What would success look like under this new manager, let's say, in the first season? And what would Tottenham need to do if they are to shrug this tag of failure specialists?
Well, I think first and foremost, he really has to sort out the player grouping that he has. As I said, one big thing, Ricardo, is whether or not Harry Kane stays. My personal opinion is I believe they should cash in on Harry Kane and let him go. The funds from the sale of Harry Kane is where they rebuild the club. And I think that needs to happen. There are too many players within that Spurs team are way past their sell-by date, and they need to shift them out. They need to start bringing in players with the right appetite and the right attitude. And I think that is going to be the key. As I said, I keep using the word, building the culture in the club, making sure that Spurs becomes a team that is a force to be reckoned with within the EPL. And it's very, very important that he's given the right tools to be able to do that. And as I mentioned, Ricardo, I am still curious to know whether or not he has the reins to pull the trigger as it relates to transfers. And of course, even that big decision in terms of whether or not they keep Harry Kane.
Yeah, I've seen that rhetoric that maybe it's time Tottenham cash in on Harry Kane and use the funds to get in other players and build a new, fresh unit and so on. But if you're losing your best player and at 29 years old, and given what Harry Kane produced this season, let's forget this season, this year alone, in recent months alone, it is clear he still has the quality to be the lead man at a football club, especially a football club like Tottenham. Why then would you want to cash in on a player who is still performing at the level that Harry Kane is and that you obviously need if you are going to move forward?
Because this is a long-term project, and it's not. Harry Kane, of course, has 1 year left on his contract, and let's be honest, he's not going to stay. He will be in high demand. He would be, of course, a free agent, which means he can sign with anyone. He can write the check that he desires and he wants, and because of that, it is very important that if they can get 80, 100 million from Real Madrid, of course, or Manchester United, I say take the money and use that cash to build out your squad. Of course, Harry Kane has been a brilliant servant to Tottenham Hotspurs, but his era at the club is coming. Like many others within that club, it's time for them to move on. It's time for them, for Spurs to blow it up and build it back again.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, Lance, Mariah, Brent, Harry Kane would look good in red.
Well, he can come
You mean Liverpool?
Lance,
I'm just asking.
You know better than that, Lance. You know better than that, Lance. You know better than that. I'm surprised you didn't say if I didn't think he would look better in blue, since you're an admirer of City.
Brent, I want to thank you so much. Let's leave Ricardo and Lance to battle that Man City Man U discussion, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, guys, have a great one.
Take care. Break time.
Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.